Lightroom's just had a massive update out of nowhere and added 3 new features, which is actually going to completely change the way we edit. The last one's sick, so stick around. Right, so the first one's really not that crazy. It's just HDR. So basically, if your monitor supports HDR, which mine does, but I haven't got it turned on right now, this will actually be not grayed out. Mine's red right now because it's not available, and it's basically going to show you a HDR version of the photo. So if you don't know what that is, it's high dynamic range. So anything really, really far away, it's going to show detail in those parts that are really far away, as opposed to as well as the things that are really in focus and sharp in the foreground. And that is normally, if you put on this visualize HDR, that is normally the parts of the sky that are really blown out and really far away, or any reflections and stuff like that. It's going to try and retain some detail for you, and then you can actually edit a HDR version and export a HDR version, so anyone who has a HDR TV like myself can see the photo in the HDR format. Or you can put it to the SDR display, which is just normal displays that don't have HDR, and you can edit the photo and export it for that as well. So you can basically just make 2 versions of the photos now, for people that have a nice expensive TV and for the people that don't have a nice expensive TV. That's that section. I don't really care about that. I don't think it makes much difference for me anyway. But as we scroll down, this is where things get cool. So we're gonna come to this section at the end. That's my favorite section. But for now, we're gonna show you, where is it? You come down and you'll see this new little section that has early access, and it says lens blur. This is kind of crazy. So you're gonna press apply. AI is gonna do its thing, and it's gonna see where you took the photo, as in what settings you took the photo, focus-wise. So for me, if you look in this top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner, sorry, I took this photo at f4, and it doesn't show the focus distance on here, but basically this section, you can control the bokeh, how it looks. So this section right here, you can choose normal bokeh. If you don't know what that is, it's the blurry parts of the image. So I've got the soft one here, which is just the normal soft cut off. Like, I'm in focus right now. The background is slightly out of focus, and it's a nice smooth out of focusness to this image. Whereas if I press this hexagon one, it's normally at night time you can see these, but if I show you this picture right here, there's lights around this car and they're in that hexagon shape. So you could basically change if you wanted to be a smooth circle, if you wanted them to be a hexagon, if you wanted to be these 3D donut little things. You can now change and choose what style of bokeh you have even after taking the picture, which is crazy. So that's that section. This section, so this is where AI has decided your f-stop is. So you see this little highlighted circle, it's highlighted rectangle, that's your f-stop. Okay, so think of it like that. That is your f-stop right there. If I pull this all the way out both sides, that's f16, right? But now if I pull this all the way in, so it's a tiny little square like that, that's f1.4. Does that make sense? So now if I double click this back to original, that's f4 that it is reading that at, that I actually took the photo at. So we can now, and then this thing that is in, I can move this around. So right now we're at like f4. I can move this around in this little bar. The more I go to the left, the more it's actually moving the focus around in the photo. So you know when you take a manual picture and you actually manually focus your photo, and you can see the focus like travel across the photo where it's blurry. This is in focus, this is in focus, this is in focus. Well, that's what we can do now with the photo, even after we've taken the picture. So let's move this down to like f2, and then if I come all the way to the left, okay, yeah, so we're on the grass right now at the front of the photo. So to the left is like the front of the photo. And then as we go through, now we're moving to the car. The car's coming in focus now because the focus is traveling across this little line and slowly bring it into focus. Now we're all the way at the back of the photo. So the car's out of focus, but those people back there and the lights are actually the thing in focus. So it's crazy. You can now change your f-stop in editing and move where you even had that focus point. So I focused on the front of the car, but what's actually cool about this now is I actually thought this in my head. The back of the car, because I took this at f4, this is in focus, right? This part of the car. But I kind of just wanted this front corner to be in focus. Well, I can now do that. So let's go ahead and change this from f4 to f1.4. So we'll go about there. And now I can just search as if I was manually focusing it with my lens. It's like I'm retaking the picture. Now I can just find that bumper. So we're about there. That bumper is now in focus at f1.4. And now everything around it, this is all blurry now. The rest of the car is blurry because I've changed it to f1.4. Even this is blurry. That's just nuts. That's crazy. If you don't think that's crazy, then get off this video now, because that's like I've just retook the photo. That is insane. And then if you just want to say you like it how it is, but this section down here, you wanted this to be blurry, but you didn't want to do the whole thing that I've just done. Well, you can just make a little select subject mask. So let's press the blur, and then it's going to bring us a little brush tool here. And then what we can do now is we can just add blur to the grass or wherever we want to brush it in. So say I wanted this to be nice and in focus, but I actually wanted a bit more bokeh and blur down this bottom section. Well, there you go. You can just brush it in, job done. And then if you wanted to, and obviously you can choose as well so if you wanted the hexagon on this brush bit, you could choose the hexagon stuff if you're at night, and you can have some lights as the hexagon, some as the soft. And then if I wanted to bring anything in focus, it will do its best to bring that thing back in focus. So the grass was already quite sharp anyway, so I can bring that back, no problem. So if I brush over this, it's gonna bring the grass back. But if you look, these leaves and stuff up here, they're really out of focus anyway when I took the picture. But even if I, for a better example, use these branches here, which are slightly out of focus, it'll do its best job if I brush over these to bring them back into focus and actually try and sharpen them up a little bit. It struggles, but if it's slightly blurry, it can slightly pull it back. So now those branches are a little bit more sharper than they were before. So yeah, this new section is, gonna change how I even take a photo. So maybe I take a photo at f4 now, because I know when I go back to the desk, if I change my mind, I can actually lower it down to f1.4 and choose where I want to focus it in the photo. So yeah, it's crazy. That's the second section. Also, I didn't even think of this. I'm just editing this right now, but I just remembered, if you've got a lens that goes to f1.4, no, if you've got a lens that only goes to f4 and you don't have access to f1.4, you now have access to it, because you can now put your focus area on this new section down to f1.4, whereas normally you'd only be able to have access to f4. So yeah, that's cool as well. Just thought I'd add that in there. The actual third section is the best one, I think. This is going to help me out the most, maybe you as well, if you're big on colours. So if I go to this picture of the Audi R8, which is a very nice car indeed, we'll reset this to a stock image. So normally you've got this colour mixer here, right? So you mix your colours, you choose, I want to boost the reds on the headlights, or I want to boost the oranges, but then you want to also like change the hue and you want to go through. Normally you could, yes, change, say if I just wanted to affect the grass, right? That's green. So if I boosted the saturation, it's going to boost the grass and boosted the orange, but then it's also going to affect the trees, and it's also going to affect the number plate because the number plate's orange. Oh, yes, I could just do a selective subject where I brush over it, add a brush, but then all you can do then is up the saturation for that mask. You can't change the hue and change the luminance and affect that color independently with all those three adjustments. Well, now you can. So if we go down to the colors again, where are we? Here. If we reset these and if we choose a color, we're gonna go to point color, and I'm gonna choose orange. So I want to affect the oranges on this number plate, right? But I don't want to affect the trees. But unfortunately, they're in the same bracket of color. Oranges and greens and like that sort of tree area, and even the floor and this wall has all got hints of this orange. So if I do this right now with this color, you see it's going to affect all of them. Look, trees, the wall, the floor, the number plate, even the headlights slightly. Well, we can change that. So you're going to go down here, you're going to press visualize range, and what this is going to do is basically show you how far from the place that you selected. So we selected the number plate. It's going to show you everything that's black and white isn't going to be affected because the Audi isn't in that same color bracket, but the greens over here and everything else is. So all you can do then is you can either use this master slider here, which is going to generally move everything around. So if I go all the way to the left, that's going to do as tight a range as possible, almost like an f-stop. So like, let's say f1.4 in camera terms to help you understand it. f1.4 is really close to that number plate because that's where we selected it. If I went down to the right to like f16, let's say, now it's going to affect, because then now the floor's not black and white anymore and the trees are not black and white anymore, or either is the wall. So now if I actually change these colors, it's going to affect all of them again. But if we move that to the left, where it's that f1.4 distance, so it's only going to affect a tiny space around where I selected, now when we affect these, it's only going to affect that number plate perfectly, and I can change the main colors here, or I can actually go down to the hue down here, the luminance and the saturation, and do it on the sliders instead. But let's just, for example, put this all the way over here. Now when I turn off visualize range, the oranges at the back and the wall and the floor are all the same, but now that number plate color is individually changed on its own. That's just nuts. You can do that now, and it is so helpful. Let me find a better example for car photographers. You might not have even thought of this, but I've already done that. Let me redo it. So here's a photo, right? Let's say this is a client's car. They want that car to be the same as it was taken. I underexposed this a little bit. The green is actually a little bit sharper than that. So, but say I still wanted to add a cool preset from a new pack, link in the description, and I want the image to look like that. But when you add a preset or do a cool edit across the whole photo, it's gonna affect the car, right? So obviously, yes, you can do a radial gradient, you can select subject the mask and not affect it, blah, blah, blah. Calm down, just let me show you this. So now, I've edited the photo, but now I can just come to this section, point of color. I want to use the greens, please. Bosh, and then I'm going to go down to visualize range. I'm going to make sure that only the green is being affected and there's no other greens in the image at all. So we're completely fine. It's only going to affect the car. And now I can just make sure I get that green to where it was. So it was actually a little bit more about there. So nice and saturated, nice and rich. I think it was a wrap on this car. But now when I turn this visualize off, I've got the cool edit across the photo, but I've also still got my nice rich green paint because I've been able to pinpoint that individually and change it completely. I could even do it to that woman's shorts if I wanted to and go for the blues and change her shorts on its own. So yeah, that's my most favorite thing, especially for car photography, because now I can pinpoint cars, paint, and actually make sure I get it into the right window that it should be. But yeah, this came out of nowhere for me. I don't know if you knew about it, but yeah, Lightroom's just dropped a big old update, 2 new massive sections to Lightroom, plus the HDR section, but don't really care about that. But yeah, 2 things that you should definitely start using, and they're gonna completely change the way you shoot and the way you edit, because now you could take a photo, F6, and have everything in focus, because you know you've got the option now, back in editing, to change it to f1.4 if you wanted to, and pinpoint the bumper like we did on that car and have everything out of focus. But then you could also have an in focus version as well. So yeah, it's just crazy. So yeah, I thought I'd show you that. I've filmed 2 videos in a row now, hence why I'm wearing the same outfit. So I am going to go to bed, and yeah, help me out, give me a like, give me a subscribe. We're nearly 1,000 subscribers. We're getting close. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. I'll see you later.